The old black horse stood in the corner of the auction yard, his ribs visible beneath a coat that had long lost its shine. His name was Midnight, though no one had called him that in years. To the crowd milling about, he was just another broken-down animal, not worth the feat it would take to keep him alive. His eyes, once bright with spirit, now held only resignation. He had been passed from owner to owner, each one crueler than the last, until he arrived here at this dusty lot where unwanted animals came to meet their fate. Tom Henderson had been ranching for 30 years, and he had seen plenty of horses in his time. But something about the way this one stood there, separated from the others, caught his attention. Maybe it was the way Midnight's ears perked up slightly when a child laughed nearby, or the way he still tried to hold his head high despite everything. If you've ever looked into the eyes of an animal that's given up hope, you know it's a sight that stays with you. Tom couldn't look away. The auctioneer's voice cracked through the air like a whip. Lot 47, black gelding, approximately 20 years old. Who'll start the bidding? Silence fell over the crowd. Someone in the back muttered about glue factories. Tom felt his jaw tighten. He had come here looking for a young mare for his granddaughter, not to rescue some horse that most people would call a lost cause. But as the seconds ticked by and no one raised a hand, Tom found his arm going up almost of its own accord. $50, he called out. The auctioneer looked surprised, but brought down his gavel. Sold. Loading Midnight into the trailer was easier than Tom expected. The horse walked up the ramp slowly, but without resistance, as if he had learned long ago that fighting only made things worse. During the 2-hour drive back to the ranch, Tom kept glancing in his rearview mirror at the trailer, wondering what exactly he had just done. His wife Martha would have questions, and he wasn't sure he had good answers. But something in his gut told him this was right. The first few weeks were hard. Midnight flinched at every sudden movement, expecting a blow. He wouldn't eat unless Tom left the stall completely. The ranch hands shook their heads, certain the old horse wouldn't make it through the month. But Tom was patient. He spent hours just sitting in the stall, talking softly, letting Midnight get used to his presence. He brought him the best hay, added supplements to help him gain weight, and treated the sores and scars that covered his body. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, something began to change. It started with Midnight's eyes. The dullness began to fade, replaced by a cautious curiosity. Then came the day he took a carrot directly from Tom's hand, his soft muzzle brushing against calloused fingers. Martha watched from the fence, wiping tears she didn't want Tom to see. "You old fool," she said affectionately when he came in for dinner that night. "But you're my old fool." 3 months later, Tom's granddaughter Emma came to visit. She was 8 years old and had been asking for a horse for years. Tom led her to the paddock where Midnight now spent his days. His coat beginning to regain its gloss, his frame filling out with muscle and healthy weight. "Grandpa, he's beautiful," Emma whispered. "Can I pet him?" Tom nodded, and together they approached the fence. Midnight walked over slowly, and when Emma reached out her small hand, he gently lowered his head to meet it. What happened next surprised everyone. Over the following months, Midnight and Emma formed a bond that seemed to heal something deep in both of them. Emma, who had been struggling with anxiety at school, found peace in the bond with Midnight. And Midnight, who had known only harshness from humans, learned that gentleness existed in the world. Tom taught Emma how to groom him, how to lead him, and eventually how to ride. The first time Emma sat in the saddle and Midnight walked calmly around the ring, there wasn't a dry eye among the ranch hands watching. The local newspaper got wind of the story and sent a reporter. The article featured a photo of Emma and Midnight, their foreheads pressed together, and told the tale of the abused horse that found his purpose in helping a little girl find her courage. Letters started arriving from all over the county, from people who had their own stories of rescue and redemption. Some enclosed small donations for Midnight's care. Others just wanted to say thank you for reminding them that it's never too late for a second chance. On Midnight's first anniversary at the ranch, Tom threw a small party. Friends, neighbors, and families who had been touched by the story came to celebrate. As Tom watched Emma lead Midnight around, showing off the tricks they had learned together, he thought about that day at the auction. He had crossed a line that day, the line between walking past suffering and choosing to do something about it. It hadn't been easy. It had taken time, money, and patience. But standing there, watching an old horse who had been given up on, now, bringing joy to everyone around him, Tom knew it was the best $50 he had ever spent. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create ripples we never see coming. Sometimes saving one life can touch dozens of others. And sometimes when we open our hearts to those the world has forgotten, we discover that we're the ones who end up being saved. If this story moved you today, I encourage you to look around your own community. There's always someone or something that needs a second chance, whether it's an animal at a shelter, a neighbor who's struggling, or even just a kind word to someone who feels invisible. We all have the power to cross that line, to be the person who cares when no one else does. The question is simply, will we?